Well, hello everyone. Sorry, a little bit of a late intro there. Woo! Yeah, they changed some Facebook stuff on me. So that's always great. I love it when they do that so much. I can't even begin. They not only changed the stream key, but the way some things were set up. So I was on yeah, I was on YouTube streaming and then all of a sudden no Facebook. So never boring, never boring. And of course, I was trying to get everything together at the last minute for tonight's show because, well, I did a little bit of driving yesterday. I drove from northern Kentucky and I drove for about 17 hours straight. I got in about 1:30 a.m. this morning into Austin, so I'm crazy. But no, I honestly don't yeah, it doesn't bother me too much. Drives like that, I I have cruise control, so my leg doesn't hurt after a while, being pushed on the accelerator. If you have a good audiobook, the time flies by, so it can be pretty relaxing for me, but I know it stresses some people out. So yeah, never boring. Also, I was having a bit of an issue with the chat. I think I have it figured out. Let me see if it's working here. No pressure. Yeah, it's coming up. Yay! Okay, so I think we're okay. Well, hello, and thanks Alacia for joining us, and Kathy, and Damaris, and Sarit, and Dan, and Kevin. Yeah, whew. And yeah, follow Alacia's suggestion and like and share because we always appreciate that. It always helps with the show. Whew. Um, yeah, yeah. I used to kind of try to max myself at about 10 hours for a trip, but it got to a point where I did 10-hour trips so much I could do them. Well, I mean, pardon the joke, but in my sleep. It was never hard. I mean, it got to a point where 10 hours would fly by and I felt fine afterwards. So it's one of those things where I don't try to do it, but if it seems like if it's okay, I'll just keep going. And I was fully prepared to stop at a hotel on the way home if I needed to, but I figured, hey, if I'm still feeling good, and I listened to several audiobooks and really enjoyed it. Yeah, and Janine, you're not wrong. It can be actually kind of nice and peaceful. I know some people don't like driving at night. I have pretty good night vision, so it's never been a problem for me. And yeah, I mean, there's not much traffic, so I can just go on cruise control, hit the um, 77 miles per hour or something, and go to it and relax. Um, well, that's not exactly true. It depends on where you are. I'm centrally located in Texas in Austin, so it's a lot easier for me. I can kind of I mean it takes me 5 hours to get out of Texas from anywhere, that's for sure. But not more than that. And it's well, I mean, unless I'm going a weird way. So uh well, that's the yeah, yeah. I-35. I went Sunday, but it wasn't too bad. Sunday midnight around then. I'll say that. Um, right, right. I mean, it just depends. If you're going through Texas, yeah, 12 hours is normal. But Central is not too bad. I like that. Like that. Yeah, that's about what I did. It was about 17 hours or so, from 8:30 a.m. Central to 1:30 a.m. Central. Yeah, 9:30 Eastern. But it was yeah, it was weird. It's always it just depends on the audiobook for me. That's really the thing. If it's an audiobook that I will get into, it's kind of like for me. There's no difference between that and reading a book as far as my interest. When you open up a really good book and it's late and you feel like you should go to sleep, but the book's too good, so you just power through it, and next thing you know, it's 5 a.m., but you finish the book and you're really happy. That's It's the same thing with audiobooks. If they really keep my attention, I'm not falling asleep. There's no way. So it's all about which audiobook you pick. Now, I certainly slept late today, not gonna lie. Oh, I got 9+ hours of sleep last night, but I needed it. So I'll forgive myself. I will forgive myself. Um, Well, yeah, I mean, you do stop. I mean, it is one of those things where uh you just I do take my time. I don't speed, I don't rush, I don't stress about cops. I don't I just take it easy, drive, listen to the audiobook, relax. And I stop regularly. I plan it so that I stop for gas. I take a break while I'm doing that, walk around a little bit. I stop for food, take a break a little bit, walk around, and so I'm not just stuck. I it's like a few hours on, a few hours off kind of thing, and try to make that happen. That's my technique anyway, and it works well for me. I really like it. It's honestly, I get a lot of thinking done on the road. Um, sometimes I even come up with good subjects for fair life on the road. It happens. So yeah, it's definitely the Dresden Files. Well, that's read by James Marsters. So yeah, it's really good. It is really really good. So that's good. And you're right. The narrator, that's really um, it really depends. Like sometimes it's really nice to have the writer of the book read it, but sometimes they're not the best readers. So it's not that good. It is not. So yeah, you kind of not always the best. So it just depends. Having a good reader is very important. Um, Now you certainly can have it can be charming if you get like an actor or a politician or somebody who does an autobiography and then they read it themselves. Well, I mean that adds a level of charm that maybe they're not the best vocal actor or reader out there, but because it's really them, it adds to that. So that can make it work. But yeah, the reader is so important. Wow. Wow. Okay. Okay. That is always good. Well, thank you. Thank you, Alicia. It is true. Although I will talk to you not when I stop sometimes. I will get on the road and drive and talk at the same time. I can do that. It's okay. Not that bad. Works out okay. Oh, yeah, you're not wrong. Um, and it's weird. I mean, like, it's been very popular to get Will Wheaton to read a lot of books, and some of them he does really well, and some of them not so well. It really depends. Yeah, it really depends for on him, on what the subject matter is, because I think he's just they hit him up for reading because of his name, not necessarily because he's the right person for the job. Times. Yep, that's right. Because usually when I'm stopping, I'm going to get gas, and I need to make that happen, do all of that. But yeah, yeah. Oh yeah, those books on tape. I always go digital, and I just have a ton of them. I set up an Android head unit in my car, and it has a USB slot that I can just put in, and it's a what I think now I have like 128 gigs, something like that. Or did I go up to 256? Micro USB that just plugs in, and it just yeah, it's really small but holds a lot, and I've got a ton of books on there, so I always have options. Well, yeah, totally. We need to go on a road trip. Yeah, I'm in. I'm in. Let's talk. Let's talk. Group road trip. I love this. Right, right. That can be a tough one when they do. Yeah, yeah. It is tough. And I mean, you want to be understanding, but at the same time, like a lot of audiobooks, they did not put a lot of production in, as far as money, staff. I mean, editing, getting all that stuff together. Yeah, a lot of them were done really on the cheap, and sometimes you run into them that have a high production value, and they usually it's on the books that are expected to do really well. But yeah, you hope, you hope. So what are your favorite audiobooks that you've ever read, or listened to? I guess in this case, on the road. Anyone? I mean, like, do any of you have your go-to audiobooks? Like these are the ones that I like. I'm curious. I mean, for me, ooh, I mean, I think the best generally the best audiobook on most people's lists of best audiobook to keep you awake on the road is probably The Martian. Has been for a good, for the last decade or whatever. It's brings you in and you will not fall asleep. Great for keep. So that's always been a go-to for me if I'm really tired and I just need something. I can throw that on and I'll listen to it. But really, any of his books are pretty good. Even Artemis, but which is still pretty good. Uh, but yeah, it's good stuff. It's definitely good. Um, oh, kids' books on tape. Uh, yeah, pop up is hard to adapt to the genre. You're not wrong. Cat in the Hat is surprisingly not as good as an audiobook. Yes. Yeah. Okay, Brian Jacques. Okay. Voice cast for the Red Wall books. Great for kids. Okay. Okay. Oh, interesting. Oh, that's an interesting problem. Yeah. That's weird. Okay. Okay. Dracula. Okay. That's a classic. So classics can be pretty good. And the good thing about classics in audiobooks is that they're usually several versions because they're classics, and you'll have several readers over the last few decades draw from. Which one do you prefer, and you can check the reviews and see who did the best. It's kind of like having a options. That can be nice. Sometimes you can have the famous person who reads it or the really good reader who reads it. So it's nice. I like that. Classics can be. Yeah, I mean that's a good one. I mean the Harry Potter books are great. The In America, Jim Dale read them, and he does a very good job. But I have to admit, I prefer the British versions because they're read by Stephen Fry, and they are so good. He really does a great job. So yeah, yeah, those are really good, definitely. Uh, and yeah, she just put that in. Okay, yeah, that's the classic. And Jim Dale does a great job. It's so, I mean, you can't really fault him, but it's Stephen Fry. It just has this more authentic British aspect to it, at the very least. But he's also just brilliant, so it works on so many levels. It's just great. I love it. So yeah, that's that's definitely that's a good route. Um, let's see. Other than that, and then Dresden Files are certainly very good. I will. I'll definitely back everybody up on that. Um, wow, Project Hail Mary. If you liked The Martian, is insanely great audiobook. Well done. Um, yeah, you will like it definitely. Uh, okay, The Distant Mirror. Right, Cushman. Okay, 18 hours. Wow. Yeah, sometimes some of them are really long. It's nice to actually have, if you have a collection of audiobooks, just to have handy. It's good to have a few that are short, like the 2 to 3 hour audiobooks. Now podcasts work well for that, and I know some people like those, but sometimes I'd like to get lost in a story, and I think audiobooks can be great for that. So yeah, I really am a fan of uh, I really am a fan of doing having a few like that, all ones. A good variety of links because you never know. It kind of sucks if you have like a 18-hour audiobook that's really good and you're only going to be driving for 5 hours. Then it's like, well, I guess I'm not going to finish this. I mean, because I don't know. I always have a desire to finish the book I'm reading, whether it's audio or visual, whichever. Always have been like that. It's kind of my thing. I don't know. Anyway, I really should tell you a little bit about my weekend, not just the trip there and back. Yes, I traveled to Alep, a long expected party, which it's not fair to call it a convention, like an outdoor convention, although it's an easy comparison. It's a Tolkien themed get together. I think it would be best described as a retreat, I think, for about 150 people to just go and hang out and enjoy workshops and get-togethers and dances and fun stuff, dressed up as Tolkien characters or just their own Tolkien attire, and it's really good. Um, yeah, I mean it's just really cool. Let me see. I can jump over to show a couple of pictures just to. Uh, I know, right? That's kind of what happened. But yeah, here you go. This is sort of where I was. I was staying in a place, not that building, but it was almost exactly like that. I was on the top floor. But what they have, it's a Shaker village in the northern Kentucky, and what they do is they have all of these buildings that were part of the community, different houses, and they converted them into essentially, well, they converted them into hotel rooms, and you can go visit and tour the area and see all this great. They have wonderful hiking paths and a lake and all this cool stuff. Uh, but but no, I mean it's gorgeous over there, Northern Kentucky. I mean beautiful, but the buildings themselves, I mean, are quite old and have a rich history, and it's really kind of interesting, fun. Um, so yeah, it is kind of cool. Here's I played music with my old bandmate Mark Gunn and Jamie Hauser was there with us, and we played and had a great time playing music. And just you can see some of the people dressed up in the background. And this was right before we did we played music for dance practice because we would play dance tunes and they would learn different dances. So yeah, a lot of fun. And then yeah, at night we'd play music while people were eating in the big barn and on stage. And this is kind of what it looked like in between our sets. And it was yeah, just playing some fun music and kind of dinner music and just a lot of fun. And yeah, then on the last day here we did sort of a recreation of Bilbo's birthday when everybody dressed up as hobbits and hung out, and we played music for that, and then we had a choir and a huge dance, and just a lot of fun on the last night, and that's always kind of the pinnacle of it. And yeah, I just got to the rest of the time when I wasn't performing, I just kind of got to chill out, relax, and have a good time. So yeah, this was pretty much what my days were for several days. It was a lot of fun, very relaxing, and a lot of great people. But not a huge number, not like a convention. I mean, it was just you just kind of hung out and talked with everybody. At the end of the day, when dinner was done and everything, we'd all go to this underground part of one of the buildings that they turned into a pub, and we would everybody would hang in there, drink, and sing songs for several hours until everybody finally crashed. But a lot of fun. I highly recommend it. It's called ALEP, ALEP, a long expected party. They tend to do it every few years. It's a very specialized event. But no, I mean that's part of the charm of doing what I do because I get to do some of those things. It's a lot of fun. Definitely a lot of fun. Now, yeah, and Alacia, um, yeah, you're right, Janine. It is not entirely different to the Hobbit philosophy. So yeah, you're kind of right. There is a lot that goes. Um, uh, there's a lot that goes with it, and yeah, Alacia, yes, she had a rough one because of the hurricane. Some other fairs did too. There were a few fair closures last Saturday because of it, and it's definitely going to be something that's going to be felt for the next several months by some fairs and everything. So yeah, it's definitely going to be a thing. I know some of y'all have had to deal with some bad weather and issues over the weekend. So hopefully next weekend will be a lot better. And it's already 7:24. We've been talking about this so much. Let me jump right into the the fair map for the weekend, so we can get that through and talk about it. So yeah, yeah. That was your first full day closure because of weather. Wow, yeah. Those are always interesting because you never expect it, and then when it happens, and they usually do just make the decision last minute. Not always, but usually, because there's always weather is so uncertain. They want to be sure. So yeah, it happens, and it's kind of weird. It's like all of your expectations are just thrown out the window. So it can be a little traumatic. So thank you for good job, pardon the pun, weathering through it. Hmm. Yes, I actually said that. So let's just jump on over to um, the fair list here. Uh, let's see. We'll start off. Oh yeah, let's not forget the cat friendly version. Yay, cat friendly. Woohoo! Okay. Let's see. We'll start over right over here with the Connecticut Renaissance Festival. It's doing a 3-day weekend, and it is Lebanon, Connecticut. 2 weekends left, and it's Time Travelers Weekend. Then we have King Richard's Fair in Carver, Massachusetts, one that Alicia is intimately familiar with. It's 3 weekends left, and it is Highland Happenings. Then going over to New York, we have the New York Renaissance Festival in Tuxedo Park, New York. It's the last weekend, so last chance to go there. Then jumping over to Pennsylvania, the Pennsylvania Renaissance Fair in Manheim, Pennsylvania. 4 weekends left, and the theme for this weekend is Shamrocks and Shenanigans. Yes, that's what it is. Down over to Maryland, we have the Maryland Renaissance Festival still going on in Annapolis, and 3 weekends left there. No theme this week, I think. What? Did I point wrong? I pointed wrong? Oh, did I mix them up? Oh, yeah, I totally mixed them up. Sorry. Yeah, that's one of those things. I try to put them in order, and she sends me all of the stuff in a random order. So I have to try to copy and paste and put them in an order based on geography, and I sometimes fail there. Sorry. So yeah, let's scratch that and reverse it. So King Richard's and Connecticut. Boom. There we go. Okay. Jumping down to the Carolina Renaissance Festival in Huntersville, North Carolina. Carolina, I believe, is still there. 7 weekends left, and it is Kids Weekend. Jumping over to Tennessee, we have the Tennessee Medieval Fair in Harriman, Tennessee. 2 weekends left. And then we have, going down to Georgia, the Tybee Island Pirate Festival in Tybee Island, Georgia. Right down here, right on the edge of being in South Carolina on the coast. So just right there. 1 weekend only, Thursday to Sunday. Let's go ahead and jump up to Ohio, and we have the Days of Nights in Lancaster, Ohio, 1 weekend only. And then the Ohio Renaissance Festival in Waynesville, Ohio. 4 weekends left, and it is Viking Week. Jumping over to Wisconsin, we have a gathering of rogues and ruffians in Baraboo, Wisconsin. I don't know if I pronounced that right, but we'll go with it. 1 weekend only there. Jumping down to Iowa, we have the Iowa Renaissance Festival. Really, alphabetical order by state? That. Actually, that might be easier if I'm sorting, but still. Uh, Iowa Renaissance Festival, Amana Colonies, Iowa, 1 weekend only. Then jumping down to the Kansas City Renaissance Festival. It's 3 days this weekend at Bonner Springs, Kansas. 2 weekends left. And the theme is a combo of Pet Weekend and Viking Weekend. So it's Barbarian Brewfest. I could not make this up. Nor, let's be honest, would I. Jumping over to the St. Louis Renaissance Fair. It's a 3-day weekend as well. Wentzville, Missouri. Oktoberfest is the theme. Then let's We have oh, and then going over in Kansas, the Great Plains Renaissance Festival, um, one weekend only in Wichita, Kansas. Then going down to Texas, we have the Texas Renaissance Festival is starting up in Todd, Mission, Texas. Opening weekend is Oktoberfest. And then the Idaho Renaissance Festival, all the way up into the Northwest, and Kuna, Idaho, one weekend only. And down in Nevada, Las Vegas, Nevada, the Age of Chivalry, Las Vegas Renaissance Festival, one weekend only, Friday to Sunday. And then still going on in California, the Northern California Renaissance Fair in Hollister, California. 3 weekends left, and this weekend's theme will be Oktoberfest. So there we go. Oh, mercy. There we go. Okay. Well, we're already getting up to about 7:30 because we talked about audiobooks for a ridiculously long time. So let's just jump over to 7 reasons and we'll do what, like I said last week, 7 reasons themed weekends are a bad idea. So here we go. Number 7, it dilutes the theme. I mean, it diminishes it in many ways. I mean, let's be honest. Renaissance fairs already have a theme. So throwing a themed weekend of a discordant theme just diminishes either one of them. Is it Renaissance? Is it Harry Potter? I mean, is it Wizards in general? I mean, what? It's it it really takes away any concentration and turns it into one soupy mess of different concepts and themes. And I just don't think that's it can cause problems. So number 6, it's a lack of consistency. I mean, one of the things fairs, you kind of like is, variety can be good, and I put that as last week's as one of the things that was good about it. But also consistency can be good, and there's a lot of things at fair that are consistent, like scenario, the actors, the things that go on, and making it even less consistent than that can really make it hard for the actors, for the performers to really get in that groove and make it work. I mean, you kind of expect to have that high quality of stability every weekend you go. This kind of ruins that sometimes. It can make it tough. It can make it tough. Um, so, and oh, Janine, there you go. And okay, number 5, too much variety. And that's the other thing, a lack of consistency. But then you get all of this variety of change and change and change and change. It's I mean, you've got lots of variety week to week. I mean, in one weekend, and then the next weekend it's totally weird and different. And I mean, I don't know. I mean, Halloween only comes around once a year. Why would you mix it up like that and try to make it a different holiday every week? I mean, it's just there's a reason you don't do that. Um, yeah, it's just a little nutty, a little nutty. Okay, number 4. Right, I know Jan doesn't. That's yeah, and I get it. Uh, I totally get it. Number 4, pressure to support the theme. Um, Yeah, I mean, it's kind of interesting because I mentioned before that as performers, you get to do other things. You get to do music from a different genre or really go anachronistic and have fun with it, which can be fun sometimes, but it can be also annoying. I mean, think about it if all you do is you play medieval music and that's your shtick. That's it. You concentrate on that. That's what you're known for. That's what you do. Or you play sea shanties and that's your jam. You've made a career out of that. So then Harry Potter weekend comes in, and what do? I mean, all of a sudden you've got a theme that's working against you, not for you, and that's not so good in my mind. Um, yeah, it's sort of like the fair not supporting the performers sometimes. Okay, number 3, it kind of widens the demographic too much. I mean, okay, one of the reasons I always liked going to fair when I was younger was because, hey, these are my people. I mean, it's like all of a sudden there's a huge place where have people that are a lot like me, at least in some ways. And that was always very special. Now you start widening that demographic to all of these different groups, trying to make it as widespread as you possibly can. Um, and all of a sudden, I just feel like I'm at a rally for something. I mean, it's nothing really. It I don't have necessarily have a lot in common with all of these people. Some I do, some I don't. It's really it doesn't feel like a sanctuary. It feels like an overcrowded mess, to be honest. Yeah, yeah, lost in space. That's a good way to put it, Lisa. Yeah. Um, so yeah, that's kind of yeah. So okay, number two. Number two. I think it misses the point. I mean, you see, the thing is, Ren fairs, they already have a theme. They already have a theme. So having a contrasting theme that works against, and I mean against, the theme of a Renaissance fair, a medieval fair, a pirate fair, and you're doing something that runs counter to that, that works against the fair by doing over concentration of not just fantasy, but fantasy fiction. I mean, a pop culture thing. It's not just modern; it's fictitious modern. I mean, wow. I mean, really? I mean, this is kind of like a Mexican restaurant saying, "Hey, we're going to celebrate Bastille Day, and we're going to bring in a bunch of, you know, a bunch of French flavored food to celebrate at our Mexican restaurant." How does that make sense? And yeah, I just I don't see it. I don't see it. I mean, maybe if the Mexican restaurant was in France, but even then, it's still weird. It's still weird. So yes, and the number one reason why themed weekends are a bad idea, because it's just a cash grab. I mean, it's obviously a cash grab. The only reason they're doing this is about 20 years ago, a couple of the largest fairs in the country started doing themed weekends, and they reported that it helped. Now, of course, these were some of the largest fairs in the country, so they were growing. Oh, shock. I don't think it necessarily had anything to do with the themed weekends. In fact, there's no proof that it did. No data I've ever heard of or seen. And I've asked around that the themed weekends had any effect on attendance at all. They were growing before the themed weekend. So, yeah, I don't think they necessarily did anything. But because of that, everybody jumped on that bandwagon to try to make more money. This was not because a bunch of patrons got together and said, "Hey guys, we'd really like to dress up like Harry Potter at your fair." That's not what happened. It was strictly to try to make more money. There is no other reason for it. It's a cash grab. So you can't really. There's no way that they can claim a honorable purpose here. They are just trying to get more people in the gate. So yeah, that's sort of the thing. Uh, now you're trying to really pick apart my metaphor, aren't you? Well, I guess actually it was as a simile, but we'll skip that. Um, yeah. uh, right. And that's sort of it. I mean, I think generally, I think it probably does get a few people in the door that might not show up. But honestly, I I don't really know if I don't think it's many. I think it's more people that would already show up are more inclined to dress in outfits, and you also get some groups that you bring in that have nothing to do with Renaissance fairs, and they could care less. They just come in, they spend some money, and they leave, and they are not part of the community. They're not interested in being part of that community. Um, yeah, I mean, they're actually working against the theme of the actual fair. So yeah, I don't know. I don't know. Oh, I'm sure Drew has thoughts. Yes, yes. just talking about it. You can see all the options up there. But yeah, rewatch. We'll talk through because yeah, it is. Yeah, themes. I yeah. I mean, I tried to hurled their praises last week in Seven Reasons. It's like you do, but and there are some good aspects to it as a fair owner, I suppose. But for the rest of us, I don't know. Other than occasionally, maybe if we happen to like the fandom that they're doing. I mean, and I'd be more understanding if it was a concentration of love and romance or, wizards. And they didn't, they avoided the Harry Potter thing. They just went wizards and magic or fantasy lore and approached it that way. And tried to make it be a concentration of what is already at Fair but tried to push that aspect, I could maybe be a little more understanding. But and I know some people, hey, they just like they have costumes that they normally wear to their favorite convention, and hey, they get to dust off the old Harry Potter robe and wear it, and that's kind of fun. Okay, and that way they don't have to buy a new outfit. But don't you want them to buy a Renaissance outfit when they come to Fair? I mean, that's kind of the thing. So I don't know. I don't know. I really am not a fan, honestly, of themed week. Um, honestly, I think sometimes they are done better than others, and they could be done all right. But I've rarely seen them done very well. That's my take. And so yeah, I think generally, I think they miss the point, like I said in number two. So anyway, that is Seven Reasons. And wow. Still having meetings with Alicia and Whitney. In fact, I'm about to go meet Whitney right after this show. But and talking about the future at here at Life's Affair, and we're going to keep going through and coming up with some really good stuff for next year. Maybe this year, but definitely for next year. That's sort of the goal. I've tried to keep Fairlife going so that Life's Affair was still going on in the interim, and I think I've done fairly well considering. But yeah, it's been sort of a transitional time since sort of post COVID, trying to figure out what should be the next step. And I did appreciate all your comments last week. I do apologize about YouTube because I realized after the show that I had forgotten to do a setting that enabled the feed from YouTube to show up. So if you were on YouTube and were making comments and I wasn't responding to them, that's why. I actually never saw them until after the show. I did see them, but not till after the show. So I apologize about that. I did appreciate your comments, and I did take them to heart and wrote some of them down. So we will be talking about those. But yes, yes. Oh, yeah, Shakespeare theme is another good example of that, and occasionally do see that. But yeah, something like that. I mean, maybe not as much for a medieval fair, but for a Renaissance fair, a Shakespeare theme, yeah, makes great sense. Totally. Definitely. I mean, for pirate fairs, pirate festivals that go for multiple weekends, most of them only go for one. But if they went for multiple weekends, I could see doing some interesting themes for pirates in different eras or regions of the world, and really coming up with some cool stuff if you went for it that way. Really, that's great to hear. And like I said, there are a few that do a pretty good job with it, but I think they're more the exception is the problem I have with it. A lot of the ones that are going more for the fantasy, pop culture stuff, Game of Thrones, Harry Potter, all that. I think that's kind of it's just too obvious a cash grab. So yeah, yeah. But anyway, yes, I'll do keep thinking about ideas for the fair and for us for things you'd like to see. I am have compiled a bit of a list, and I'm going to be going over it like crazy over the next week, and maybe we'll talk a bit about that on next Monday about kind of some things we're thinking about, and maybe get some feedback from you. I would love that. So yes, a lot of cool things going on. I hope everybody is stayed safe during the hurricane, and that nothing too bad has happened to anyone. It's it's a little weird. It's been a rough weekend for several people. So wish them well. Have a have a good week, a good time, and uh, oh hey, we're still talking here and talking about. Okay, we're going ahead and just continuing to talk about the whole Muskogee thing then, huh? Okay, Scottish weekend. Um, yeah, okay, and how they do it there. Well, Janine, yeah, game of pseudo medieval. I mean, uh, yeah, but I mean, so does Lady Hawk. I mean, really? I mean, it's not pseudo medieval is like saying Conan is historically accurate. I mean, it's just it's not. I mean, you can cheat a little bit and use that as like maybe one character to kind of suggest that, but don't push it too hard. But when you really make a whole weekend about it, I don't know. I don't know. I mean, I get it's fantasy. I mean, uh it's total fantasy and it's modern fantasy. If it was something like a fantasy uh story from medieval or Renaissance times, I'd be a lot more open to it. But it's a modern one, so I don't know. I don't know. It just doesn't really have much to do with actual history. Um, I hate to say it, but a good bit with lore and and fantasy and lore. I'll give it that. But yeah. But I mean, once again, it's sort of like how much do you want to dilute the theme? How how loose do you want it to be? That's sort of the question. It's a tough question, it really is. Um, but yeah, yeah, I haven't been to Muskogee in actually a while. It's been a little while. I need to go back. Oh, okay. We're gonna start to get in ranking. Um, I don't know. I think it's a similar concept. I mean, that if Harry Potter or Game of Thrones, it's a similar issue. Um, I mean, it's the classic view of people dressed up in Star Trek garb and going to Ren Fair and walking around with their tricorders talking about this odd pre-industrial society that they've just beamed down to investigate. I mean, I mean, if they want to have fun and do that, okay. But why would you make a theme about Star Trek landing parties and do that at a Ren Fair? I mean, that's making it official. I mean, I'm not saying to ban it, but if people want to dress up as Game of Thrones or Deadpool, they can wear whatever they want. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying, but to make it official is to actually work against your theme. So I honestly I don't see a difference between Game of Thrones and Harry Potter. I think they're the same thing. They cause the same exact problems. Um, oh, is that what we're thinking? Road trip? Okay, well, we'll talk about that. Actually, and that is something we probably should talk about. We need to start talking about some group road trips for Life's Affair. Get some of some of the people on here have never met each other, and I think it'd be kind of fun for everybody to travel and go see some cool stuff in the future. So that's definitely on my list. So something to think about. Um, something to think about. So yeah, words, words, words. Well, anyway, it's already getting late, so I'm gonna call it here and get a little more sleep tonight and recover from the long drive and the weekend. Hope all of y'all had a good weekend, or at least as good as you could, and have a great week. I'll see you next week, or hopefully another bit of fair life. Take care.